and get some lights on. Well, welcome to another unboxing. And those were some pretty cool moves on the part of the Singer repair guy, huh? You didn't know he had that in him, did you? So this box arrived back in January, and I am just getting around to unboxing it now. And Kathy Maddox out of the great state of North Carolina sent this here. And all I'll tell you is that the only hint I'm going to give you is that it is a Singer, because the Singer repair guy opened up this particular Premier. So we're gonna just have to take it in little baby steps and see if we can figure out what did Kathy Maddox send to the workshop. All right, let's get going. And you can see right away, based on the style of packing, the method used, plus you can see on the side of the box for that matter, that this was packed and prepped by a FedEx store out in North Carolina. So we're going to be able to evaluate and provide some good feedback to Kathy on how they did. And I know that their typical method is a double box method. In other words, they're going to have this larger outer box, and then inside of there they're going to have a smaller box with the machine packed in there. So we'll see how they did as far as padding and protecting the machine. Nothing wrong with a double box method as long as it's executed properly. So we're going to have to provide some good feedback. And executed properly means that that inside box that we can't quite see yet, that needs to be packed extremely well on the inside, but also padded around the edges inside of this larger box so that that smaller box is not going to be getting banged around and jostled around. So I'm going to get rid of this paper, and I can see that they did not, I wouldn't say an A job. They did attempt to try to immobilize the box by putting this padding paper around the box, but I wonder if they have anything on the bottom. We'll have to wait and see. And there's nothing terrible or good. I'm kind of neutral on this packing paper. If they do a good job of using the packing paper, it can afford some good padding and protection. If they don't do such a great job with it, then it's just cosmetic. It's window dressing. And in this instance, I would say it's kind of between the two. It's not the worst that I've seen, but it certainly is not the best either. They used a fair amount of paper, you can see. But I can see already that they did not use any paper at all to pad the bottom of this inside box. So if that inside box isn't packed extremely well with that machine inside, then we're going to have a problem as far as what we might find. So I'll set this paper to the side. Again, you've never seen me use paper like that as a primary packing method. Just because, number one, I don't buy the stuff. Number two, I prefer the cushioning effect of what peanuts do around the machine inside of a tote. It's going to provide a lot smaller scale protection against damage, potential damage. So there is no padding on the bottom of this box whatsoever. Come off the tripod real quick. I'll just show you, and I'll show Kathy as well. So we're looking inside of the box now. We pulled out that padding paper that they'd stuck in there. And there's no protection at all on the bottom of the machine. And I assume that the machine is inside of this box, right? Yeah, that would make sense. So that is a criticism that I will offer straight away. If you're going to use a double box method like this, nothing wrong with it. But realize that underneath this inside box is a thin layer of corrugated cardboard. And then that corrugated cardboard is going to get impacted by cement floors, by the metal beds of FedEx trucks as it's getting transitioned from building to building, vehicle to vehicle in its journey all the way from North Carolina to the workshop. So imagine that this thing is getting bounced around and getting dropped and such. There's no padding at all between the bottom of this inside box and the bottom of this package from the outside. Just a thin little layer of corrugated cardboard. So definitely insufficient. They should have, if they wanted to go crazy with that paper, they should have put about half an inch to 3/4 of an inch at least between the bottom of this inside box and the bottom of the outside box. So as this thing is getting bounced around and banged against, like I said, cement and metal, there's going to be some protection on the bottom of this box. Nothing at all. So that definitely, in my book, is not the best example of a double box method being executed by this particular FedEx store. And that's the thing you find, is that the stores do not have real clear protocols that they follow uniformly across the board. They seem to kind of be doing their own thing. There's some common ground, but then they deviate. And when you're having best practices for packing or anything else, and you have a large organization like FedEx, you need to be having checks and balances to make sure that all of your stores, franchise or otherwise, are following those best practices to, number one, to maintain reputation of brand, and number two, just for the well-being of their customers, so that they're using the same principles, the same practices to ensure the safe delivery of whatever's inside of that inner box. Because this is their method, this is their footprint of packing. So, and I don't use cardboard, you all know that already. So we will open up the front of this. I will try to open up the front of this. Or I could just simply lift it out. That might be easier than trying to cut through this cardboard. Let me just try to see if I can get my hand underneath and lift this up. Alright, set that right there. A little note from the owner. So that first song that I put on for y'all is called Calvin Harris. Calvin Harris. And the theme that I picked this time is, or the mood, the theme or mood is funky. So this next one is called Muriel. We'll see what this sounds like. So I got a little bit of a concern here. A little bit of a concern. And I'll show you what it is straight away. I talked about if they're going to use this method, they have to really make sure that that inside box is padded well, right? This is a serious warning sign that something broke through. See that? And again, on the bottom of this outside box, there was no padding at all between the bottom of the smaller box inside and this outer box, and something punched through, and actually it looks like it pretty much went almost all the way through the bottom of this corrugated box. And whatever that was, whatever part of the machine, presumably, that part of the machine was getting banged against the bottom of this corrugated box with no padding against that cement and that metal directly underneath us. No padding whatsoever. And I'll kind of come over here by the box real quick, which I'm going to put it back up on the workbench as soon as I get this other one done. So this is Kathy's inside box right here with her machine in it, right? And this is the bottom of the box that was facing down. And I can literally put my finger, I've got my finger all the way inside of the box now. So this was a complete punch through whatever part of the machine this is, and probably some sort of pedestal foot. It punched all the way through this box and then went from here, again, went from here all the way through the bottom into this outside box and punched almost all the way through that. So keep your fingers and toes crossed, because if that is a pedestal foot or whatever part of the machine it is, it was impacted hard. It made its way all the way through that inside box and almost, well, I think it is practically all the way through the outside box to the bottom, where this box would have been tossed and shifted and shuffled from building to building. This is the bottom of the box. Boom, boom, boom. Metal, cement. And that part of the machine made its way all the way through that inner box, all the way to this outer box, and all the way through to the bottom. So, not good. Not good at all. If you live in North Carolina, find out where this FedEx store is, and I do not recommend that you use them unless they start using better best practices with their double box packing method. That's for sure. Matter of fact, I'll see if I can give you the address of this place. So it looks like this particular FedEx store, let me just double check real quick that I'm not being deceived by with the label out here, which looks like it's a FedEx label, but then it has the customer's address. I just want to make sure. Okay, this is the customer's address, so this doesn't help us. The customer's address is on this box. So I don't know, FedEx presumably packed this because it's their method, but they put the customer's address on here. So all I can do is tell you that it's going to be a FedEx store somewhere near Clemens, North Carolina. Clemens, North Carolina is fairly close to where this customer is. So let me get this out of the way, and we will continue the process of trying to check this box out. And I'm going to set it on the workbench just like it was inside of the larger box, just like this, which is kind of odd because this particular box is set up so that it's open from the end like that. You can see that in the shot. It's open up on the end. It's not open on the top or the sides or anywhere else. This is the equivalent of the top of the box right here. And this is the way this smaller box was inside of the larger box. And again, if we kind of rotate it like this, I'm just going to pick it up and jiggle a little bit. Okay, what you're hearing is movement of the machine inside. It sounds like it's pretty tightly packed from top to bottom, which might explain why it had no room at all and it punched through the bottom of this box. But from side to side, or from front to back, it's definitely not packed extremely well. And this again, right here, is our punch through. So we can even try to open this up a little bit and take a peek in there, see what we can see. Hopefully we don't have a pedestal foot come out. I'm also seeing some oil residue coming through the bottom of the box as well. I don't know if you can see that in the shot or not. I'll kind of zoom in on it a little bit. Yeah, you can see it. So I don't know if Kathy had some sort of oil in there beyond what was lubricating the machine. Maybe she transported some oil with it. I have no idea, but it's clearly leaking through the bottom of the box. So it's the only problem, and I totally get it. Some customers, they either are not able to or don't have the time or the desire or the inclination to pack their own machines using my method. But like I always say, if you use a service like FedEx or UPS or any of the other couriers, you can always, they have a way of you communicating with them through email. You can always email them a link of my packing method. Now, they might totally discount it because, let's just face it, some of these real large companies, they think that they've got the best packing methods in the world. And yet when you see stuff like this happening with their methods, you really call that into question. Considering I ship my machines all around the world, just recently shipped that one to Heidi in Switzerland, and it arrived perfect. No punch throughs, no oiling leaking out through the packaging or anything like that. So these companies, if they humble themselves a little bit, they can realize that they're still a student and that their packing method, as good as it might be, could be better. As evidenced right here. And if their packing method is great and they're not executing it consistently at their store locations, then that's a corporate issue. The corporate needs to be doing follow-up to make sure that these companies, whether it's their packing or any of the other services they're delivering, that those people are following those best practices that the corporation should be enforcing. Also with franchisees. Franchisees have to follow the best practices of that are set up by their corporate parent company. So someone's dropping the ball here, either at the local store, or I would also always point back to the leadership at the corporate side, that they're not monitoring how well this particular FedEx store is doing near Clemens, North Carolina. So I can feel that there's some give on here. I'm going to open this up a little bit. We're just going to take a little peek in there, see if we can figure out what popped through. And you notice I'm going to set my blade incredibly shallow so we can try to open this up but not come anywhere near, because I can feel there's padding on the inside of there. We cannot come super close to what's on the inside of there. Immediately on the inside of there, I should say. Okay, so I carefully cut a little square out. Cut across there too. And that does feel actually like a spool pin to me. That actually feels like a spool pin that, so they have the machine positioned sideways with the top of the machine presumably pointing this direction towards the camera. Because that sure as heck feels, yeah, that's a spool pin. I can feel it now. So what does that tell us about this FedEx store? What it tells us about this FedEx store is that they literally shipped Kathy Maddox's machine in this inside box with the machine upside down. Because if this is the top of the machine, which it is, because there's a spool pin, I can feel it, and this is the bottom of that box as it was facing down inside of that outside box. And this is the part of the box that had the punch through, then these knuckleheads at the FedEx store near Clemens, North Carolina, had this machine traveling all the way from North Carolina to Oconto, Wisconsin, with the machine transferred like this. This is how it was inside of that larger box. And the machine is upside down inside of this box, because that spool pin is poking through the bottom of the box. If anyone else is a little bit shocked that FedEx would be so clueless, if my conclusions are correct, maybe I'm just missing the boat here, but I'm feeling a spool pin that was the source of punching through the bottom of this box and almost completely punched all the way through that outer box that we already moved off of the workbench. So what that's telling me is that they shipped this machine of Kathy's from North Carolina to Oconto, Wisconsin with the machine upside down in this box. What kind of distance are we talking about? What kind of distance are we talking about? Just in general. Distance from Clemens, North Carolina to Oconto, Wisconsin.
The drive from Clemens to Oconto is 962.1 miles.
So, you can see on camera, I think you can, that we are talking about this box traveling just shy of 1,000 miles, 962.1 miles. 962 miles with the machine inside of this box, upside down with the spool pins getting banged against the top of that machine, getting banged against cement floors, metal beds of FedEx trucks, and anywhere else it was getting tossed around so severely that those spool pins and the other pokey parts on top of Kathy's machine punched all the way through this box, because they have the machine in here upside down, and punched pretty much all the way through that larger box. Matter of fact, instead of saying almost, why don't we see how extensive that is. Now we're looking at the bottom of the larger box. So it didn't make it all the way through. It did over here, but not over here. And I think that that would have been, let's try to line them up here. Yeah, that would have been on that side of the box. All right. So we've got crinkling on this. This again is the outside box. We got crinkling right through here, where because that machine had this smaller box that I have on the bottom right now, this smaller box had no padding on the bottom of it, which we now know is the top of the sewing machine, against the bottom of this one. And we've got what appears to be pretty much a punch through right here. We've got crinkling right in here on this larger box. And it looks like they kind of, what they did is they kind of made a box. They kind of added some additional layers to this box, maybe thinking that it would afford protection. Nothing wrong with a better skin on the outside of these boxes. But if you didn't do a decent job of padding and protecting the machine on the inside boxes, or the inside box in this instance, this one right here, what's the point? And obviously you didn't. Number one, you should have never shipped Kathy's machine upside down in this box with the spool pins pointing down. And number two, you should have done a heck of a lot better job of, if you're going to have this inside of this larger box, you put a bunch of padding underneath this one, so that as this box is getting banged against cement and metal, there's a buffer between the inside of this corrugated box and the bottom of this box. Just makes sense, doesn't it? It doesn't seem like rocket science to me, but apparently packing in a logical way to try to reduce the likelihood of damage to a vintage sewing machine, which is fragile, it just seems to escape people, even large companies like FedEx. Isn't that weird? If you think that's weird, type it in the chat, or if you have another insight as to they get so big, they're too big for their britches and they just think they can get away with anything. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. Type your thoughts in the chat if you'd like. So we got Mirio, we just played. Now we're going to play Mirror Mind. Mirror, like look in the mirror, mind. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Since we know that they shipped Kathy's machine upside down with the spool pin punching through the bottom of this box and almost all the way through the bottom of the outside box, banging against concrete and cement, I'm going to open up the bottom of this box very carefully and see if I can take this machine out this way. Okay? Take it nice and easy, nice and easy. And again, I'm feeling I've got enough space in there. I'm going to set the blade just a little bit longer, but I'm going to leave it very, very short so that we're not cutting too deep into this. Looks like we probably have power cords or something like that over here. So we've got the foot controller, which I assume that this was probably in a table. That's usually a telltale sign when the cord is cut, because when they used to put these, this is obviously a Bakelite, so as I said, with a Singer repairman guy kind of opening this up with his cool little dance, this is obviously a Singer machine. And they would have a special clamp that these would snap into in the table, and then they would route this wiring, usually through some insulated type coils, up to the top, and then it eventually would connect to the machine. But it's a pain to get these out sometimes, especially if you're not knowledgeable about how to do it the easiest way. And the simplest thing sometimes is just to cut the cord. After all, this cord it's not incredibly brittle, but it is starting to get that way, so this will be replaced anyway. But, you know, these are all, and those of you that follow me a lot, you know this already. These controllers, as a general rule, with the exception of, say, the 401A that has a larger motor and uses a similar foot controller to this, the majority of these are going to be rated at 0.7 amps, which tells you the motor in this machine is going to be a little bit less than this. Because Singer was smart that way. They always would allow a little bit more amperage tolerance with their foot controllers, so that if that motor drew more electricity and spiked a little bit, it wouldn't cause the foot controllers to overheat. You had a little bit of a buffer between, say, a 0.54 amp motor and a 0.7 rated foot controller. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, just type in the chat, you know, a thumbs up or a smiley face or something like that. And I've explained that before, but if you're new to the channel, that might be something you're only hearing for the first time. So, okay, so now we've got Brass Orchard, and I've got a customer that's going to be arriving at the workshop soon, traveling quite a distance. So I'm going to try to move forward with this unboxing, and we'll keep our fingers and toes crossed that So again, they're using this paper. Nothing wrong with the paper, but they did a shoddy job of protecting the bottom of this box, clearly by that spool pin in the upper parts of the machine punching through the bottom of that box. And again, having no, other than this little layer of bubble wrap and a little bit of paper, not having any padding for this machine, with this being the bottom of the box getting banged against cement and metal. So this is the power cord for this machine, which has seen better days. So this is obviously also going to get rewired. You can actually see the silver wiring poking through there. So I'm not going to plug this in. Nope, I'm not going to do it. All right. Okay, now you can clearly see what I was talking about. Again, remember that this is the bottom of the box. This box was rotated like this on the inside of that larger box, so this part of the box was getting banged against cement and metal. And there's our spool pin right there in clear view now. Which was facing down towards the bottom of the box. That just does not pass the common sense test at all, does it? Not even close. Not even close. All right, let's continue seeing if we can get this machine out of here. And we'll just hope that somehow by a miracle, in spite of their incredibly foolish packing method, that, again, 962 miles, folks. 962 miles. This machine traveled inside of this box, upside down, with the spool pins banging against the bottom of that. You know, if you just imagine just those layers of corrugation are the only buffer between the spool pin and the top of this machine and concrete and metal. Ugh. So that was Mirror Mind, I believe. This next one is called Brass Orchard. Or did I already play that? I already played that. Road Trapeze. Road Trapeze is our next one.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right.
Yeah. All right. What are you guys laughing about? You guys are silly. I don't even know why you're laughing, but okay.
It sound right, boys.
So here again, you can see in the shot. I think you can see in the shot. I'm kind of holding the machine with that one hand. Now we're looking at the inside of the box. Wrong way. You can see the punch through very clearly now.
It sound right, boy.
And I'm going to do a quick write down of this serial number, and if you want to help me look it up, that would be great. So the serial number that we're looking at on Kathy's machine is JC 733. Making sure I'm seeing it correctly. 535. 535. So JC 733535. So I'm going to go over to the computer, and if you haven't done this before, this will be good experience for you. So all you do is go to Google. You'll go to Google and you'll type in Singer serial numbers. And after you type in Singer serial numbers, if I can say it, I'll shift the camera over. And you can see one of our first choices, actually our first choice, is through ismax.net, and it says comprehensive Singer serial numbers. That's the one that we want to look, or one we want to click on, I should say. That's the one we want to look into. And now we're going to look for JC. So you have to kind of scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. Kind of come out of my shot a little bit here. And I don't think it's going to have it on this summary. We'll have to look this up elsewhere. And I won't do that right now. But as comprehensive as Ismax has their lists, some of these serial numbers that have 2-letter prefixes are sometimes not going to be in their summary, and it'll have to be looked up elsewhere. So we're just going to keep marching forward with the machine. We gave it a try, but we're not able to look it up, at least using the most common resource that I point folks to. So let's continue taking layers off of this. I'll go ahead and throw some more music on. So that was called Road Trapeze. And now the next one is called Know Myself. Oh, I see why now. And I remembered that. I didn't say anything, but with the letter prefixes in the serial numbers, it's going to indicate manufacturing location. And this machine would have been made in Canada. It's a Canadian machine. So Ismax did not have that summary list, but we should be able to find it elsewhere, which I'll do for the owner. And this is obviously going to be a class 15 machine. All right, let me lift this out of here and we'll just check a little bit closer. Hopefully we don't have any damage to the machine. I think the vintage sewing machine Fairies we're looking out, at least our Canadian vintage sewing machine Fairies we're looking out. So I'm going to move this out of the way. This is only some bubble wrap that was put around the machine. And we'll come off the tripod and look a bit closer at this machine. Again, I've got a customer arriving just a little bit, so I've got to do this kind of fast. boy, are we fortunate. I'll tell you that right now. We are so fortunate. Kathy, the vintage sewing machines at Fairies, I think we're looking out for you. Let's come off the tripod and quickly go around this machine. Again, that was made in Canada. And this is a beautiful example of a class 1591. Beautiful 1591. And if you can't tell, this is one of those hooks that can come apart. You can take this entire hook assembly apart, and you're going to find underneath here an oscillating hook system, which means it's going to, almost like a pendulum on a clock, it's going to rock from side to side like this in order to complete that lock stitch, as opposed to a lot of the other hook systems that are going to go full rotation. This is not one of those lock systems. So all in all, just a beautiful, beautiful looking machine, isn't it? It's going to obviously need a little bit of wiring work probably. And this is where they cut the wire right here. Presumably this was routed through a table and they cut off the wire that would have been feeding into the foot controller so they could remove it from a table. Would be my best guess. Some sort of water speckling on the back of here. That may be something that I can buff out a little bit for the customer. Light assembly appears to have survived the trip as well, which is absolutely spectacular. So again, sometimes we just are very fortunate. In this case, we are very, very fortunate that the machine did not suffer catastrophic damage. And again, I'm seeing the same kind of speckling that I'm seeing right here on the back of this potted motor. I'm seeing the same sort of speckling up here by the upper tension. Also on the rear of the take-up arm. So that's telling me that it's possible that this was exposed to water. It also was over-oiled because I'm actually seeing oil residue on top of the machine as well. I've said it before, more is not better when it comes to oil, folks. It just isn't. You've got to give the machine enough of a drink, but you don't want to drown it. And a lot of folks will drown their machines in oil. That's part of the reason it was seeping all the way through the box. So this is a spectacular Canadian-made Class 15-91. And I'm seeing just incredible representation of the decal set. And these are original decals as far as I can tell. This is not where somebody re-decaled the machine and repainted it, etc., like I do with some of my full restores. This machine has just not seen a lot of use. It hasn't probably gotten a huge amount of sewing because there's not even a whole lot of wear marks or scratches on this path right here that most commonly receives that. So, Kathy, I think you've got an incredible specimen of a Canadian-made Class 15-91. But again, I would encourage you, if I'm not totally off base, that FedEx is the one that you entrusted the packing of this machine to, I would definitely give them feedback and let them know that you're incredibly disappointed that they were so short-sighted in their packing that they transported this machine almost 1,000 miles upside down inside of that inside box, and there was no padding between the bottom of that inside box and the outside bottom of the exterior box that was getting banged against metal and concrete and everything else. It's absolutely a miracle. It's a miracle that this machine survived without any evident damage to it whatsoever. It's quite a miracle. So this ends the unboxing now, and this machine will go into the queue now with the date backdated to January when it arrived. And I'm hoping to get this machine done soon and get it heading back to North Carolina. And I can promise you one thing, Kathy, when this machine arrives to you back in North Carolina after I take it through my process, it's going to arrive packed properly, not like you've seen this one. So we won't have to rely on the vintage sewing machine fairies, or good luck. It'll be precision packing, very thoughtfully done. And you can always send links of my packing method to the FedEx store that did this, and maybe they can learn something from it, from some little guy in Oconto, Wisconsin. All right, so this again is Kathy Maddox's Singer Class 1591 from the great state of North Carolina. And I appreciate you being a part of this unboxing. And I'm going to give you a quick little quote to chew on. And that is, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, it's a habit." And that FedEx store in North Carolina could work a little bit more on their excellence in packing to develop their habit of doing a better job in the future. Yep, that's about it. All right, y'all take care and stay tuned for other videos like this that will teach you something and give you the opportunity to learn something new and fun. See ya.